Hey, what's up, you guys? So this is going to be sort of like a two-part thing. It's going to be covering like frame data and health values. Um, just because I think it's one thing that it's one of those things or two of those things that a lot of people aren't really too sure as to how it works or how it applies in the game. So to start, just because it's more condensed and straight to the point, I'm going to start with the health values. So as you can see above, Scarecrow has 1250, Wonder Woman has 1050. And most of the characters have these health values. And then there are only about 3 of them that have 1150. Only one of them, Supergirl, has 1100, I believe. And Canary has 1200, or those two are swapped. And then Darkseid on his own has 1400. So I mean, more or less, it applies that the higher the health value is, the less damage that they take. But the exception to that comes with Darkseid. Um, he's like second or third to defense, in a sense that like all these defense values and everything like that, they don't really apply necessarily. It's more just the health value itself, with the exception of him, or at least to my understanding, they don't apply at all. Like the strength, ability, defense, health value, whatever. It just seems pretty straightforward that, you know, the lower the health, the more damage they take. Which is strange. Because the way that this game works, like a lot of people, they'd like to write out combos like, oh, such and such combo does 500 damage. Okay, it might be 500 damage to the character that you're doing it on, but then to the next character that has, like, let's say 150 more health, it'll do actually like 100 less. Like, okay, let's use these two characters for example, Wonder Woman and Scarecrow. It'll do, let's say, 500 on Wonder Woman, right? But then it would only do like 450 on Scarecrow, for example. And these are made up numbers, but it's just that none of these values are actually constant unless it's with another character with the same exact health value. And I don't know, I hope that NRS fixes this, because it's really nonsensical and kind of just like throws about a lot of confusion and unnecessarily large numbers for no reason at all. Because I'm trying to think, you know what? No, it's gonna take too much of a process to do this whole thing. So yeah, like let's say it does 500, right, on Wonder Woman. So how you would find a percentage itself is you would do 500 divided by 10.5. Because of her health value, and then whatever number you get, that's a percentage of her health that it took away. And then whatever that same exact combo did to Scarecrow, you would do the same thing. Whatever that value is, divided by 12.5, and you would get the percent. And the reason why I say it's nonsensical is because you have all these outrageous numbers, but then when you convert them to percentage, there's literally only a 1 to 3% difference across the entire roster when it comes to combo damage, or like any damage itself. So I don't see why it would be that much of an issue to just convert all these damage values into percentage. Simple numbers to understand, and they hardly vary across the board. That's why my combo video was made the way that it was, because I literally did the combo from the lowest health value to the highest health value, and converted them to percentages so that you guys can actually see how much damage it really does. And the reason why I say it's stupid too is because this game can actually break down percentage by single percents. Like, it can calculate what 95% of the health is. You know, it can calculate what, like, let's say, what's this? 21% health is. So I don't get why they can't just reverse it to display combo damage this way. I don't know, to me it makes no sense. I mean, as you can see, look, 21% for Wonder Woman is 220.5 health left. For Scarecrow, it's 262.5. As you can see, the values are not the same at all. Like, even though it's the same exact percentage, it's not the same in their health values. So it throws about a lot of confusion. You know, like if you're not good at math or you don't understand math that well, it's just gonna throw you off. And even if you do understand math, it's just gonna aggravate you, because it's like, okay, these numbers are so close to each other. When it comes to percentages, why can't you just keep it that way? But yeah, those are just like, that's covering the health value stuff itself, and like damage and all that stuff. So now when it comes to frame data, frame data in NRS games has never been their strong suit when it comes to helping out the community, like understanding it, in my opinion. Just because it, like, a lot of stuff varies, or they're not really clear as to what's plus and what isn't, what's the cancel advantage on hit and on block. Like, as you can see on this move, it says cancel on the bottom right corner. It says 16, sure, but is it on block or on hit? You know, I don't know. You know, I don't think any of you know. And more often than not, that number isn't even correct. Because the cancel advantage between hit and block, they do vary. They're not the same. See, like, I'm gonna set her to, I'm gonna go over like simple stuff, but just really quick. It says it's plus 16, right? His fury gas is 12. Because 12 is less than 16, it should jail because it falls within that window. But as you can see, she's still able to attack. So the cancel advantage is not 16, at least not on block. But it is on hit. It's at least plus 12 because that 12 frame special is connecting. But that's what I mean by these in-game values that they give us aren't even accurate. And you don't even know on hit or block what it applies to. So it's now to break down frame data itself. Frame data applies to like every single fighting game, or like any game in general. And this game, it runs at 60 frames per second. So, in short, it means that in a second, 60 frames run by. So, I mean, you don't really have to understand how much time it actually is in real time, but if something takes 60 frames to come out, like let's say 60 frames startup, it means it takes a literal second. So like for this, his standing one, scared strike, or scarred strike, I don't know. It says that it's an 8 frame startup. So that means out of those 60 frames in that second, it just takes 8 of those to come out. So now startup is also different from a frame of impact, because something like Wonder Woman shield toss, it's 11 frame startup. That means that on the 11th frame, that's when it's actually like active and coming out. But if she's not like in your face, let's say, then the frame of impact is gonna be way off. You know, because it's like I'm all the way over here. She throws her shield. It's not gonna be on frame 11 that it hits me. It's gonna be maybe on like frame 15 or frame 16. And this applies to a lot of moves too in general, like throughout the game. Like if they're weapon-based attacks, or if they're like projectiles and stuff like that. So that's how startup and frame of impact vary in values. And then you have active frames, which means that after that move is out, for that many frames, which this could also be inaccurate with in-game stuff, like in-game values. But after that move comes out, like from the startup, after frame 8, it'll be active for 2 more frames before it becomes inactive. And even if you're still like in an animation, it's not going to have any effect on the opponent if they touch you. And then recovery, it means that after you do your entire sequence, you do the startup, you have the active frames out. After all of that, you have recovery frames, meaning that for that value, for that many frames, you cannot do anything. You have to hold whatever it is that the opponent's going to do to you. So like with this move, it says that it's 11 frames of recovery. Obviously it's a very small window, because as you can imagine, a second is very quick, you know? So if you're whiffing this, they only have like, what is it? A sixth, right? A sixth of a second, really, to react to it. A sixth of a second is 10 frames, but you know, 11, it's pretty damn close. But let's say by some miracle they're reacting right then and there. If they use something that is 11 frames or less, they will punish you for it. And you can't do anything. You can't block, you can't super, you can't do nothing within that recovery frame, or those recovery frames. So now when it comes to hit and block advantage, these are either neutral, negative, or plus. If something is neutral, no matter what it is on hit or block, if something is neutral, it means that you and the opponent are going to move at the same exact time. If something is plus, like for his hit advantage on standing 1, it's plus 12. It means that for 12 frames, he is going to be moving before the other character, or before the opponent. And that's the same thing no matter how plus it is. If it's plus 1, plus 6, plus 1,000, it doesn't matter. Whatever that number is for plus, it means that they're moving that many frames before the opponent, whether it's on hit or on block. So kind of going into that a little bit, that also means like the cancel advantage stuff. If you do something, like let's say he's plus 12, right? And then I use a 12 frame special, it's going to jail because the 12 frames falls within the 12 frames. Same with if it's plus 12 and I use a standing 1 again, which is 8 frames, it still falls within that window of that 12. So it's going to jail. They can't do anything about it. Obviously you can push block and etc, but this is just covering the frame data aspect. So if it falls within that window, no matter what the value is, it's always going to jail. And this applies on block and on hit. So now and also cancel advantage stuff. So now when it comes to things that are negative, no matter if it's -1, -1,000, -20, whatever that value is on the negative, it means that the opponent is going to be moving that many frames before you can. So again, it kind of applies the same exact way, just on the flip side a bit. Because it's sort of like their plus that many frames. So let's say you're -6. If they use a 6-frame move, it's going to jail, as in you just have to hold it. For the most part, no, because this game is weird. So let me scratch that. Let's say you're -6. If they use a 7-frame move, it should jail. It should. Just because this game has a lot of inconsistencies, but I'm trying to just condense the frame data part of it. And the reason why I say that is that, see, like this, like when you're negative or when you're in recovery, for that many frames, no matter what the value is, if they use something that falls within that window, it's going to count as a punish. So that's what I was saying, like it doesn't really jail necessarily, like if you're -6. To kind of clear that up, so his forward 1 says that it's -12 on block, meaning that if I use the 12-frame move to hit back with, it will punish him and he can't do anything about it. If I use something that's 11 frames, 9 frames, it's still going to punish him. Now if I use something that is 13 frames, because it falls outside of that window, he now is able to block. Or if he has something with invincibility, like a backdash or a super, he can use those options also. So that's what I meant by you being plus, like if you were +6, let's say, and I use a 6-frame move to check you, or to jail you, it's not really considered a jail, it would be considered a punish. But that's kind of just like standard stuff, if that makes sense. Like, sometimes you can't combo off of things, like you can't combo off of this, right? He's plus, okay, let's say he's not +5, right? Let's say he's +20, okay, off of doing this on hit. Just because he's plus that much, it doesn't guarantee that your next hit is going to combo. Just because of the game's mechanics. So that's kind of what I wanted to sort of clear up when it comes to like the negative frames and stuff like that. Because, okay, let's say he's +6, right? That way it falls back into that scenario that I was talking about before. He's +6, that means that she is -6. If he does a down 1 to check her, which is 6 frames, his down 1 is 6 frames. If he does a down 1 to like punish her, because these things don't connect, they're not going to count as a combo, and it's not going to count as a punish, but it will count as a jail, because the 6 frames falls within that 6 frames of advantage that he has, and she can't do anything about it. I hope that that kind of cleared it up a bit, that that made more sense. But that's how hit advantage and block advantage or disadvantage works. So now when it comes to cancel stuff, what canceling means is using anything. It can be a special, it can be an air move, it can be a standing normal or a string, and then you cancel, like you go into a special right after. So now these values, they change, like what I was saying before, between hit and a block. And I was kind of going over that before, where this thing, it says the cancel advantage is 16, even though it really isn't. Or we don't even know what is 16. Is it on hit or is it on block? So yeah, that's basically it. Like I'm trying to think, I'm like, did I miss anything from before? Like when I was covering the cancel advantage stuff. But basically, if the cancel advantage is 20 on hit, it means that if you cancel into a special that is 20 frames or less, it will continue as a combo, or at least it should. It depends on what the special is. For the most part, it's always going to connect, unless it's like some really, really wonky thing, like the game's mechanics kind of prevents it from continuing. But like, let's say I do standing 1 and the cancel advantage is 20, right? And let's say this move is 20 frames, it will connect for a combo, as you can see. Even if it's 19, if it's 11, if it's 1 frame special, whatever, it's still going to connect because it falls within those 20 frames. If I use something that is 21 frames, most likely they're still going to be forced to block it in most situations, but it will not continue as a combo because it doesn't fall within those 20 frames. And this is all on hit. Now when it comes to on block, it kind of goes back to the whole jailing thing like I was talking about, like on block or hit advantage. Let's say it's plus 15, right? And this move is 15 frames startup, then it will jail because it falls within those 15 frames. And again, if it's 14 frames, 10 frames, 5 frames, it's still going to jail because it falls within that 15 frame window. Now if it's 16 frames, it's not going to jail, so now they have a window to either do a reversal or to backdash or to super. Even if it's just that 1 frame, it means that you are no longer at a disadvantage anymore. So you have a 1 frame window to do something to get out, basically. And that's basically how cancel advantage works and whatnot. And that's how cancels work too, like doing like run cancels, like flash, or who else has cancels? I guess like Ivy, like if she decides to do like her, whatever that thing is called, that whip cancel, or Catwoman doing cat stance cancels. But that's a little more complex, and I won't really go into that right now. But yeah, that's more or less how frame data works, at least in this game. But now there are a few exceptions. There are a few things that do apply, that do get a little painstaking because it does incorporate like inconsistencies, or they're more so staples, but it's just that the values will start changing now. When you block something, right, and you do a special or a grab or a backdash to the frame right when you can move, it counts as a reversal, as you can see at that window. And the special thing about reversals is that it changes frame data. Like his move over here that I was doing, it says that it's +6 on block, but if you do a reversal, it actually takes away 1 frame of advantage, so he'll be +5, meaning that his 6 frame down 1 will not jail anymore on block, meaning that you don't have to hold this. Like you can backdash, you can do this and then backdash right after, and he won't be able to catch you. Like if he does something obviously that's like long ranging, you know, that's gonna reach you, something like that, then yes, it's gonna hit you. But if he's going for that frame trap, I'll get into frame traps right after, it will not jail anymore. And that's a special thing about reversals. But if you don't do a reversal, like let's say you try to challenge this, you have to respect those 6 frames. Nothing gets taken away. and let's say something is also negative, right? Like let's say this is negative 14. If you do a reversal for it, it's going to add, it's technically subtract, but for simple understanding, it's going to add. It's going to add one more frame of disadvantage, so he's going to be negative 15 now. So that means if you actually use, see like this, like I was saying before, you have to use something that's 14 frames to fall within that window to punish him. But if you use something that's 15 frames and it counts as a reversal, because it's adding that one more frame of disadvantage when they're negative, it's going to be considered a punish still, because now the value changes from negative 14 to negative 15. So your 15 frame special will be considered a punish, and it will punish them for it. But the reason why I say that it's inconsistent is that for some characters, these values, they're like that as normals. As in, like this thing is negative 14 across the board. If there's a reversal, it's now negative 15. For other moves, it's like it's negative 14 on a reversal, meaning that this is as negative as it's going to get. But against normals, because it's not a reversal, you're going to take away one frame of disadvantage. It'll now be negative 13. So that's what I mean by this game is really inconsistent with their in-game frame data. And that's what I meant by it's like really, really painstaking and just annoying a lot of the time. Because they're like, if you don't have consistency, it's really, really difficult to actually know, what does what. And the same thing goes with like plus frames. Like it could be plus6 on standard, and then if they do a reversal, you take away that one frame, so it'll be +5 now. But then for other characters or for other moves, it's +6 when they do a reversal. So if you don't do a reversal, you add one more frame of advantage, so it'll now be +7. Okay, so to kind of understand that, because I realized just now that I didn't go into the plus frames. Let's say it's +6 with the reversal, right? That means that you have to do a reversal, a reversal for it to be +6. If you don't do a reversal, then it's going to add one more frame of advantage, so it would be now +7. But yeah, that's why the inconsistencies are really, really annoying in this game. Because there's no like genuine staple, unless this is how it works, unless every single frame data is based off of on a reversal or without a reversal. Like it has to be one or the other, not a mix-up of the two. MKX was like that. It was mixed in between the two, so you couldn't really tell what was plus, what was negative, and how plus or negative something was. But yeah, I think that's about it. Like I was saying before, if it's a special or a backdash or a grab, it counts as a reversal if you're doing it to the frame right after. If they do a normal to the frame, it's just going to be considered a counter. The game was just registered as a counter. Alright, so I was editing this really quick, and I realized my example at the start for the down 1 into the gas was off. I was basing it off of this, and then I was doing down 1 instead. But I mean, as you can see, the cancel advantage is still the same exact value. It's still 16, and it's still inaccurate. But past that, I wanted to finish up with the frame traps. Frame traps, they work in a similar way to jailing, in a sense that you're still moving first. It's just that it's not a jail, because it doesn't fall within that same exact frame of advantage. Like, let's say this on block was +20, for example, right? And you do something that's 20 frames or less, like I was saying, it's now considered a jail, right? But now, if you do something that beats out their next fastest input, then it's going to count as a frame trap. So to kind of paint out this scenario really quick, her fastest move is a 6 frame down 1, right? So that means, to kind of do a little bit of math, he's +20, you add up 6 frames from her. On that 26th frame is when she's actually going to hit you, right? I mean, I hope that this is somewhat making sense, right? He's let me make her block. He's +20 off of this, for example, right? +20. and then her fastest move is 6 frames. So let's say off of this plus 20, he goes for something that's 25 frames, right? And she's gonna go for her 6 frame down 1. Even though her 6 frame down 1 is significantly faster than his 25 frames, if you take into account the entire value, that's plus 20 with her 6 frames, it's gonna be technically 26 frames in total. It's still slower, even by 1 frame, it's still slower than his 25 frame move that's gonna come out. These are all just made up numbers again, but just to illustrate how it is. So because his is still going to come out faster, that's what's considered a frame trap, because he's still going to hit her before her fastest move is going to hit him. So let me make the numbers a little smaller to get a better understanding. Let's say her fastest move is literally, let's say 3 frames, right? She has a 3 frame down 1. And he does this, and he's plus 10, right? Easy number. He's plus 10. So now if she does her 3 frame move, it's going to be 13 frames in total, or it's going to be on the 13th frame following up that her move is going to hit him. So if he does something that's 12 frames now, it's still going to frame trap, even though again the 3 frames is slower than it's faster than the 12. It's just the way that the advantage works on block, and that's what's considered a frame trap. Even if he's plus 1, let's say, right? She uses her 6 frame down 1 and he's plus 1. If he goes into his own 6 frame down 1, because he's already moving 1 frame faster, it's still going to count as a frame trap. And that's more or less what a frame trap is. It's basically anything. It doesn't matter it doesn't matter how many plus frames you are, or you could even be neutral. It's just your next move, it's going to hit them before their fastest move. Like if they were to contend with you, your move is always going to beat theirs out. And the reason why it's not a jail is because they can still like jump, they can backdash, they can armor, they can super, and all that stuff. But that's more or less what's considered a frame trap, and that's what it is, and that's how it works. But yeah, I mean, I hope that this clears up a lot in terms of understanding frame data, because you're not going to learn it all in one day, but at least this is more just trying to get a general understanding on the basics of frame data. And obviously this isn't really going into like whiff punishing and stuff like that. It's more just trying to go over what means what when it comes to breaking down frame data. But yeah, I hope that this is of use, and take care.